I do think if Tsunade slipped on a banana peel, whatever, and She-Hulk did grab her, I think Tsunade's raps. I think She-Hulk smashes her fucking head in.
Welcome to the Why Who Wins podcast. I'm Cole.
I'm Dallas.
And I'm Corey.
In this podcast, we discuss what your favorite characters would do in certain battles and why they would win in certain scenarios without doing any math equations. And these battles don't have to be fair matchups, so you'll see some unlikely characters going head to head that you possibly haven't seen before, but also some very familiar faces, I'm sure. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about She-Hulk in honor of the new She-Hulk show, because I don't think a lot of people know about She-Hulk, and I think there's some matchups that people haven't really thought of before where She-Hulk is going to be different than other Hulk characters is that she's actually very smart, and she doesn't always rely on her brute strength, but if it gets to that point, She-Hulk is very dangerous. It'll be interesting to see more technical characters moving forward, like potentially Wonder Woman and Tsunade, and I think to start off, Tsunade from Naruto versus She-Hulk is a very good starting off point to kind of gauge if She-Hulk's very brute attacks would be able to scale up against somebody like Tsunade that's very much trained in the arts of martial arts and jujitsu and blah, blah, blah. I think the hard part about all this is that I don't think there's a moment where Tsunade is really going to have a chance to hurt She-Hulk. I think that's going to be the standing point. So in my eyes, I'm seeing She-Hulk as a win on this. Where are you guys thinking?
I'm going with Tsunade on this one. I should go ahead and be transparent and say that I'm always going to go in favor of Naruto people. If it's God himself versus Rock Lee, I think Rock Lee primary Lotus is that nigga. Me personally. I realize that you can't really hurt She-Hulk, but I'll say this. She-Hulk has died. Tsunade has never died. So who really immortal? Who really can't be killed?
Well, I mean, that's a good point, but it's also like She-Hulk comes back. So essentially immortal. To die and then come back, it's like you're not staying dead.
Tsunade wouldn't know.
But how does Tsunade actually stop She-Hulk? That's my thing. Tsunade's gotten her ass whooped multiple times laying on the ground. I don't see a scenario where She-Hulk's knocked out on the ground, Tsunade on top.
So here's my thing with Tsunade. I think She-Hulk is driven primarily by emotions, right? Gotta be mad, gotta be angry, has to be full of rage. The more angry she gets, the more effective she becomes. So you can offset that anger, which I think probably gets more difficult the more angry she gets. But if you can offset that anger, then she loses a lot of her ability and maybe even loses her powers as She-Hulk entirely, right? At least to a base form.
Definitely loses intelligence.
Right. Okay. I think Tsunade puts She-Hulk under a Genjutsu pretty easily. And in which case, if she can do that and remove She-Hulk from an emotional place, doesn't that make her much, much more susceptible to actually being killed on paper?
If she can get She-Hulk in the Genjutsu,
Mm-hmm.
it could change the tide of the battle for sure. The hard part would be like all Gamma characters in Marvel are so anti mind control or anti like illusions and stuff. Like it would be interesting to see how a fight like that would actually work if Tsunade's Genjutsu would even work in the way that she intended it to, or how fast She-Hulk could break away with it with her being like she is a smart character. So the hard part about her is like she is the most intelligent of the Hulks. So she's able to kind of like figure ways around these battles in a way that other Hulks would just be like, I'm just going to smash whatever's in front of me. Right. But with Tsunade, what would be hard with that is like how powerful are her genjutsus against someone like She-Hulk, who we assume doesn't have chakra, but also like is Tsunade's genjutsus strong enough to actually do anything? Like in a purely hands match, it is hard to fight Tsunade with her healing. But it's like also, even if you had a genjutsu against She-Hulk, could Tsunade then try to finish She-Hulk in some kind of hit and actually effectively do anything? Where it's like, even if she wasn't a genjutsu and you smashed her over the head with your strongest attack, it might daze her a little bit. It might would knock her out of the genjutsu. Now she's rageful. Now Tsunade's fucked.
I feel that they're both brute characters. So to see if Tsunade is even going to use a genjutsu is Like, have we seen her use a genjutsu before? We would assume that she's got like a lower level one. So when it comes down to two characters that are straight brute strength, I think I'm gonna have to go with She-Hulk as well, based off of the experience alone. We've seen her choke out Celestials. Just put a Celestial in a headlock. So if you're putting Celestials in a headlock, I don't see how even durability with Tsunade being able to be split in half and fight for days. I don't really see what she has for someone like She-Hulk that has been in much deadlier situations. Because what feats does Tsunade really have in the show that's worthy to say that she can go up against someone like She-Hulk that can get stronger as the fight progresses? Just based off of the strength alone and the durability, I don't see what argument you have aside from maybe having genjutsu that may not work, or if she even has it, that would trump over someone like She-Hulk.
So here's my thing with She-Hulk. First of all, which Celestial was it? And it does matter.
Does it matter?
It does matter.
Is
Can we know?
Are we
Can we get some
establishing
information
that
on which one?
Tsunade is stronger than any Celestial?
No, I just want to know which one it is.
It doesn't matter. Not relevant.
Cole, can you get that information for us?
We can.
I can try to fact check it while y'all continue to discuss.
So here's my thing with the
doesn't
genjutsu,
matter.
right? Here's my thing with the genjutsu. Look, is it low level? Yes, but it's low level amongst other people in Naruto. Against She-Hulk, I think it'd be pretty effective. Pretty effective. I think low level in Naruto is high level in pretty much anything else, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I understand what you're saying about the feats and that Tsunade hasn't done anything super, super crazy. But we're only, and this is kind of the case with anybody in any show. We can't really hold this against Tsunade, in my opinion. We're only gauging her and her abilities within the context of a universe where people share those abilities or at least know how they work in a lot of ways. Whereas against She-Hulk, I'm not going to sit here and act like Tsunade is going to smash She-Hulk. Like it's just going to be the easiest fight of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about things like putting a Celestial in a headlock, I don't think She-Hulk touches Tsunade. I don't think there's a scenario in which She-Hulk is boxing with Tsunade and even gets to put her in a headlock. If we're saying She-Hulk has better hands than Tsunade, I'm gonna need to know why.
But
I think
she's an emotion driven character. So the longer that the fight goes on, which Tsunade is known for fighting for long times, fighting moderate for 2 days, but
something crazy like that.
The more fear she feels or anger or hate, she gets stronger, and I guess you could say she also would get faster. So yeah, the fight at the beginning may seem like
they're gonna have to fight for
there's
a
gap
long
in between. They're gonna fight for a long time. I feel like that's guaranteed. And the longer that a fight goes on with someone like She-Hulk, who has similar abilities to Hulk, no one fights Hulk for a long period of time, because the longer that you fight them, the stronger that they get. So I would assume the faster that she gets. And if that genjutsu doesn't work the first time, I feel that she is intelligent enough to find a counter for it.
You think She-Hulk's intelligent enough to find a counter for the genjutsu?
Maybe not to the point to where she won't get locked in the genjutsu, but to a point to where she can start to understand, at least, because something has to trigger the genjutsu. You're not just automatically in it. You got to see something. It usually revolves around seeing something. So I feel like she'd be able to debunk at least what's going on and how it happened enough to avoid it.
So I think we can. Okay. So in that case, though, she gets more and more emotional, right? And as she gets more emotional, she loses a lot of intelligence. Wouldn't that make her more susceptible to genjutsu, in my opinion? Because a lot of genjutsu, pretty sure the more angry you get, right, the more, like, you just by default don't think about your actions, right? Right? That's a thing.
It's hard because it's like the more angry she gets, the more her powers amplify. Mm-hmm. But so she loses that intelligence, but is able to effectively become more durable, or possibly even more harder to be susceptible to like mind attacks. I think the hard part with this is like, is genjutsu a mind attack? I think we need to clarify what genjutsu really is.
I think it's a wide net. I think it's a wide net. I think it's a wide net. Like I think on a certain level it is a mind attack, so to speak, but I think it's mostly illusionary. And I think that would be the point. To me, that would be the point of emphasis on Tsunade's genjutsu. Is like, we're not asking her to put fucking She-Hulk and the Sukenome or anything like that. That's way out of her pay grade. But if she can establish a false visual or it can establish like a false sense of sound or whatever, because I know some genjutsu appear in the like manifest a sound. Like good example would be the Sage Frog Song jutsu that the two Elder Toads use, right? I think that could scramble She-Hulk to a place in which that I think that could heavily compromise her ability to fight what she's fighting, what she's going at. And I do think Tsunade has things that could fuck She-Hulk up if she has time to do them. I think that's the thing, is that this is going to be a lengthy fight. But do you think a chakra scalpel could cut through She-Hulk?
The hard part about She-Hulk and Hulks in general is
Mm-hmm.
like even if you are able to do damage, that damage is very quickly healed. Like before you could blink, you could like cut her arm off and you could like
Yeah.
take a second and then it's right back. So if we're balancing the rules of multiple universes and what's going on, like does a
Mm-hmm.
chakra blade have extra special damage against someone like She-Hulk that is able to take on magical attacks from Celestials and Wanda and like crazy shit that no one should be able to withstand? She can from her gamma hacks. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you do get stabbed by a chakra blade or any special blade, like even getting sealed away or anything, like it does that stop She-Hulk? And if it does stop She-Hulk, does it permanently stop She-Hulk? Like what's the scenarios with what a chakra blade can really do to somebody that heals instantly?
So part of Tsunade's Yang release, which we actually just learned off camera that she had, is her ability to manipulate life forces and their ability to regenerate quickly, or they can also slow down. She can also slow down their ability to regenerate. If we can get She-Hulk, and it's a big if, I acknowledge that. It's a big if. If we can get She-Hulk to a place in which she's subdued by some form of genjutsu, and we can chakra scalpel a vital organ, which I would need to default on you guys, the regeneration thing. From what I understand, I've only seen. I'm kind of familiar with Hulk, but I've not read every single thing out there, especially with She-Hulk in particular. Not read a ton of She-Hulk stuff at all. I assume that there is organ regeneration for sure, but if Tsunade removes the heart or removes the brain of She-Hulk, which we're assuming she can do with the chakra scalpel and using the Yang ability to manipulate She-Hulk's ability to regenerate, does that kill She-Hulk or does she regrow the brain? Because to me, if you remove the brain or the heart, more so the brain than the heart, that's Windows shutdown type shit for me, in my opinion.
Dude, when you were saying something earlier, Cole, about the respected abilities in each universe, so is it fair to say that something like gamma radiation, which is where her power comes from, is something like chakra from the Naruto universe? And you know that whenever you're in a genjutsu, all you have to do is move the chakra or disperse chakra into a certain point. So it's like if she uses her gamma radiation in that same sense, if she gets hit in the genjutsu with a gamma radiation, the dispersion of the gamma radiation get her out of the genjutsu. Is it fair to say that those are used in the same way to where she can use the radiation in a way to remove herself from it? Or if like if she's in the genjutsu and she doesn't realize it and she's making her visually see something that kind of awakens a memory in her head, or maybe she feels something and she doesn't know she's in the genjutsu and it
Oh,
pops her
okay.
out of it.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
see what you're saying.
yeah.
The emotional state of whatever the genjutsu does, the more gamma radiation that she's able to expel, the more likely it is that she's not going to be affected. Like when Wanda is trying to legitimately remove gamma from She-Hulk's body to defeat her, she just expels so much gamma radiation that it's negated. So it's like if you were able to do that with Tsunade, and I also think the parameters of the battle are kind of important because it's like, is this just like a one-off fight? Are we going like it's gotta kill each other? Because if you do remove She-Hulk's brain, does the healing negation that Tsunade is able to put forth, is that a temporary thing? Is that as long as she has chakra? Like how long is that like a permanent thing? Like she can't heal ever again? Or is it just for the time being? Because I think the thing is, as long as there is like some She-Hulk left, a drop of blood, she can come back. So unless Tsunade has an ability to take the brain out and then vaporize the entire body, and like just to be clear, like you can throw She-Hulk in the sun and she's bathing in it, kind of thing. So Tsunade is going to have a very, very strong jutsu or something that permanently gets rid of the body. That I don't know, like, but could she just beat her in a one-off fight? Probably. I think
I
you.
I mean, I think if She-Hulk can't die, then the expectation of Tsunade like killing her permanently is like unfair. I think that would be. I think that's an unfair thing. So to me, it's like, can you win? Can you seize the day? I guess. Can
Yeah.
you win? Can you win the day? And I think that would be enough to do it. But at the same time, though, I feel like you made a point, Corey, about the gamma radiations. That could she call upon that gamma radiation to, if it's similar, if we're treating it the same as chakra in its respective universe, could she call upon that gamma radiation to disrupt the genjutsu? I don't think she knows to do that. Is
I'm
that
not saying
something
she
that has to
does
be
it. Well, I wouldn't say it's something that she can trigger, like they trigger the chakra within their bodies. But I'm just saying, if she's in the genjutsu, who knows what she's seeing or what she's hearing,
Mhm.
and it's just enough emotion going on at the time, not knowing that emotion is kind of Tsunade, not knowing that emotion drives the gamma radiation to become more powerful. Maybe it triggers itself, or it doesn't seem like it has to be anything big. It's just enough for, I forget what happens in the first part of Naruto, but when they're explaining the use of your chakra to get out of it, but it can be something small within the flow of your chakra is enough to snap you out of it. So if
Mhm.
it's not, if you got someone like, in which we don't know if chakra manipulation or genjutsu is something stronger than what Wanda can do, but I would think someone like Wanda trying to do a mind hack in general, something is, we'll just generalize it as a mind hack. Then if she can ignore that, then even if she were to get caught by Tsunade, someone who has a lower level of genjutsu, I would think that she can, even on accident, knock herself out of it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think with the genjutsu though, and the difference between Wanda and the genjutsu, I don't know the let me first say that I don't know the context for which Wanda tried to use magic on She-Hulk, and I think that's pretty important. If you see Wanda, and Wanda's like or whatever the fuck Wanda does, to me, seeing as that's like Wanda's like MO, right? Like to
Yeah.
me, that changed the context of like how she experiences that. With the
Yeah.
genjutsu, in my opinion, isn't the beauty of genjutsu is that you don't even really know what's happening. It's not even triggered by a thing. Like
It
in
can be
in Naruto,
subtle. Yeah.
I think it's very rare that someone's like, genjutsu go.
So I do think the interesting thing about She-Hulk is like she is able to kind of snap out of this with Wanda here. But the hard part is it's like, yes, the mental attack from Tsunade could be the trump card. I do think the mental attack on She-Hulk is really going to be the only way that Tsunade is able to make any damage towards She-Hulk is going to be that mental attack. I think physically, I don't know if there's anything that Tsunade can actually do to combat She-Hulk. I do think Tsunade's fighting is better. I think the speed is better. But from an actual standpoint of like, She-Hulk's not just going to sit there. Even if you're whooping up on She-Hulk a little bit,
Mhm.
every punch, every little thing bumps the strength up a little bit. And it makes it to the point where it's like the longer that Tsunade is just fucking her up, I don't know any scenario where She-Hulk doesn't start to fold her at some point, no matter how strong she is.
So She-Hulk, is there a person in She-Hulk's life? That's unfair actually, because we don't know. So we can't assume Tsunade would know that person. But in my opinion, like the genjutsu being used, and again, I know that's a tricky one, but in my opinion, like the genjutsu that Tsunade would use would be one to calm Hulk down. I think Tsunade would gather early on, because I don't think this is the first move she does, by the way. But I think Tsunade would notice early on, like clearly the longer this is going, the stronger that she's getting, and it seems to be driven primarily by emotion. I think Tsunade would realize that. The genjutsu itself, like Wanda's magic seemed to incite more rage. that seemed to be the chain reaction. Whereas I think Tsunade's genjutsu would very much be in an effort to calm that person down or calm her down, so to speak. And in my opinion, with the subtleties of genjutsu, I could see it working to where she's unknowingly being calmed down and as a result weakened to back to her human form. And are we talking about the She-Hulk that turns into She-Hulk and has a human form, or are we talking about She-Hulk that walks around all the time, just as base level She-Hulk?
I was gonna say I think this is like base level She-Hulk because like one once like she's the only Hulk uh initially that actually like her Hulk
Stays.
personality is her.
Okay.
So she eventually gets to a point where she only turns into her human form when it's necessary. Like
Mm.
she gets like locked up at some point or some bullshit. And she escapes by turning into Jennifer Walters because nobody recognizes her, and then instantly like turns back into She-Hulk. That's a good point about her trying to calm her. That'll be the weird thing though about She-Hulk is like she initially wouldn't come off as this giant rage beast. She would be
Hmm.
very like intellectual and kind of she's more arrogant, I would say, when she's in her She-Hulk form. She's a lot more brave.
Yeah.
So that would maybe be something that if Tsunade could pick up on the fact that anger is what's triggering these things, then having something calm her down would be pretty easy. But it's also that's the number one thing in this fight. I think is can she subdue She-Hulk long enough to put in a good enough blow that stops She-Hulk for to seize the day.
So let's say she places her under a genjutsu and the genjutsu calms her down, but we just want to add a bit more to that. She can use that jutsu. I forgot. I don't know the exact name of it, but she used it on Kabuto. And when Kabuto and Orochimaru were fighting her and Jiraiya, scrambled Kabuto's like his neuro signals. So basically, if he tried to move his right arm, an additional like a different limb would move. Try to move your right shoulder, left leg moves, so on and so forth. But it was a lot more complex than that. Kabuto sorted that out pretty quickly. Kabuto's a fucking nerd in Naruto, like top three fucking dweeb in the show, like nerd. I don't think She Hulk is gonna be smart enough to decipher that early on. I don't even think she'd totally realize what's happening. I think most people outside of Naruto, where shit like that happens all the time, would be pretty shook if they tried to move their left arm and some completely other limb moved. I truly don't think most people would be able to sort that out in any meaningful amount of time, especially if Tsunade is able to do this to her. Let's take the genjutsu out of it for a second. If Tsunade is able to do this to her while she's enraged, 0% chance that she figures that out. Now, randomly flailing around She-Hulk is still pretty dangerous in my opinion, but I do think that could place Tsunade in a good position to really fuck She-Hulk up in a meaningful way. The problem is, does Tsunade have anything that's actually damaging enough to harm She-Hulk? That I'm not sure of. But again, I got to know what She-Hulk's relationship is with her organs as far as her healing factor is concerned.
Here's my thing with all that though, and I'm not putting it past Tsunade because she is a skilled ninja. She was able to fight Madara for days. It seems like a lot of stars have to align for her to get in that perfect section with She-Hulk to have all these things happen. I'll say with the nerve scrambling, if that like technically yes, that could fuck up She-Hulk, but if that has anything to do with like regenerative abilities, if that's like a weird mind thing where her mind can just snap out of that or even just be resistant to it, like how hard does Tsunade have to hit somebody to scramble their nerves? Is that hard enough to unlock that with She-Hulk?
It's an electrical charge. That's what
Okay.
it looked like when she hit Kabuto with it. It was like a short circuit thing, so to speak. So she just ran by him and grazed by him. That's one of the reasons. I think in the context of the show, it was almost framed as if she was running away, if I'm not mistaken. That was like the deception, so to speak. So it seems like she just has to touch you and send the charge. It doesn't seem like there has to be enough force behind it or anything.
Okay.
The question is, does that affect She-Hulk the same way it would affect a regular person? I would think so. I'm sure electricity travels through She-Hulk the same way it does anyone else, whether or not it hurts her. I think it does probably travel through her body, so to speak, even if it doesn't actively burn or harm her the way it would someone else. So I think it would affect her the same. But that's also one of those things. I think arguing against She-Hulk is very difficult because it's like just the Hulk powers, so to speak, and the regenerative ability. It's really tough to determine what affects her and what does not. Like, is the regeneration just regeneration, or is it come in the form of like dexterity of the skin? Like, could Tsunade cut She-Hulk? I don't know. I know She-Hulk could regenerate it, but I think that's the tough part about She-Hulk is determining. I understand she's durable, but how durable, and how do her regenerative abilities affect how other stuff like electricity?
Like Tsunade in her own show isn't that special. Like she's got some cool things that make her
Sure,
stand out a little bit.
sure.
And I'll say She-Hulk doesn't really stand out in Marvel because I'm going to assume that a
I
lot
was
of
gonna say,
people
is she like is she the A team in
no,
Marvel?
no, and that's kind of the thing of like She-Hulk is kind of more obscure, and even in Naruto, like Tsunade is at least fleshed out to be like she's in a family of splendid ninja, like it's a whole thing. So I guess the takeaway with this battle is if Tsunade can manage to basically stop She-Hulk with a number of like if she could put her in a genjutsu, fuck up her nerves, chakra blade her organs away, and that all work simultaneously within the first like half of the battle before She-Hulk can just bypass all that with pure rage, I think Tsunade could come away surviving the battle.
How does She-Hulk kill Tsunade, by the way? Tsunade is also not dying very easily.
I think it's a time thing. I think
You
I
think it
think
just
that
goes?
I think what was it called? Mytonic. What was it? Or
There's
the 100
mitonic.
healings? Is it
No,
100 healings?
there's
Is
that's
that the
the thing.
same thing?
There's mitonic regeneration, then 100 healing seems to be mitonic regeneration, but like really taking it up a notch. It seems, and
It's it, but
it seemed like it boosted all of her
yeah.
base, like all of her base stats too. See, this is a question. This is my thing. Sorry, jumping around a little bit here, but Tsunade kicks Madara Susanoo, cracks it. To put into context how durable a Susanoo is, not only does she cracks it, she like shatters it, debris broken, ribs broken, Susanoo ribs broken. To put this into context, Sasuke has a fucking ability called Kirin that's basically a lightning dragon that leveled a whole like forest, so to speak, like a whole battle arena, leveled it, right? Itachi, and I don't know if durability differs amongst Uchiha based on how powerful they are. If it does, we can all rest assured that the most durable Susanoo is Madara's. Itachi ate that with the Susanoo. Ate it. Ate it. Wasn't even a fully formed Susanoo, just like the essence of a Susanoo around him. Didn't even start showing the rib cages and stuff until much later. So this is Madara's Susanoo, something that's capable of surviving a lightning dragon that levels an entire forest. And she's shattering it with kicks. I don't know how durable She-Hulk is, but in my opinion, she's not just going to shake that shit off. That's another thing too. Does She-Hulk get, because Doctor Doom's done some. Doctor Doom knocked Hulk out with one punch, slept his ass, chin checked him. He is out of here. She-Hulk not as durable as Hulk, we can acknowledge, right? She's not eating the same shit that Hulk eats. You don't think it's
Yeah.
plausible that Tsunade kicks the fuck out of She-Hulk and sleeps her if she can shatter the rib cage of something that eats a lightning dragon that levels an entire forest?
With Doctor Doom and Hulk, I think very important to know that was a calm Hulk. So if She-Hulk is calm, I could see her trying just a all out fucking attack, all their force in one attack. But Tsunade never starts off the fight that way. Also, just like She-Hulk wouldn't. Like that's the thing is like this also seems like this is a good matchup because it seems like the longer the fight goes on, the more hacks unlock. If that makes sense, like
Mm-hmm.
She-Hulk was able to very briefly try to fight World War Hulk. She didn't last very long, but
Mm-hmm.
we also know that nobody lasts very
I
long against
mean,
World
it's
War Hulk.
a different thing, yeah.
So if Tsunade, if it, if She-Hulk is able to go up against any Celestial, I mean that's like God level in the Marvel comics in that way. The hard part about scaling that with somebody like Tsunade is like, yes, she did crack a Susanoo which is
Mhm.
pretty fucking hard. But is she going out with that type of level? Like, she also knew going against someone like Madara, someone with a Susanoo, she would have to use that type of force. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of like feeling around at the beginning of the fight where She-Hulk's not going to know how strong Tsunade is, and Tsunade's not going to know how strong She-Hulk is. So in the beginning, you could even have like a trading blows kind of thing, and
Mhm.
She-Hulk's base form is stronger than the Thing, which is like 85 tons, no problem. Whereas I don't know what Tsunade's base form is. So if we're just starting like out the gate in the intro, and there's also the law, like in comics, that if you are strong enough to handle, or if you're strong enough to output that force, you're usually able to also tank that force. So if
Mhm.
she can lift 85 tons, I'm going to assume she can also take 85 tons of damage in that moment. If Tsunade is able to kick and break a Susanoo, I do think that would fuck up She-Hulk. I don't know if it would incapacitate her though. That would be the
Okay.
hard part for me. I don't, and
Well, that's let's bear in mind though that kick is like it's not like she's incapable of not doing more of them. Like,
Yeah.
and let's also, and I don't think we're paying this enough attention. She Hulk is not going to touch Tsunade for a long time in that fight. She's just not. Like, if we're going to sit here and act like She Hulk's going to be bought, because Tsunade is, if we're talking speed, I see what you were saying earlier, Corey, that if she gets stronger, one can assume that she gets faster as well. I think the gap speed wise between Tsunade and She Hulk is massive, and they'd have to be fighting for days. And Tsunade better be talking mad shit to She Hulk before She Hulk even gets in the same space as Tsunade speed wise. So this notion to me that She Hulk's gonna like have her way with Tsunade is crazy to me because whether it's fighting or speed, she's not touching Tsunade if Tsunade does not want to be touched. She's going to beat the goofy out of She Hulk. Even if it's not doing anything, she's going to be piecing her the fuck up. We can agree upon, right?
it would
If
definitely be
if
hard to
She
touch.
Hulk gets to the
Yeah.
space where she's the same speed as Tsunade, just off technique and hands, because I think a lot of that's lost the angrier you get. We can assume, right? So even if She Hulk is trained by Captain America and everything, the angrier you get, the more you don't rely on that technique. Even if she gets to the same speed as Tsunade, she's not going to be able to see her off the hands. And if Tsunade has a kick that can damage She-Hulk but not incapacitate her, I'm pretty sure she can chain some shit together and really feed She-Hulk. Like, I mean, Tsunade off the hands is going to be getting the fuck off. So we can acknowledge that that kick could fuck She-Hulk up. I'm pretty sure Tsunade will do more than one. Pretty sure she's going to feed the fuck out of She-Hulk.
That's fair. Speed
My
speed does kill. Speed does kill.
my counter argument to the speed is the same that all other Hulks do. If you put Hulk against any speedster, the way that they frame the Hulk clap is very much a radius thing of like everything around you is getting fucked up by the Hulk clap. And while
Mm-hmm.
I think Tsunade is fast enough to maneuver around that, the same way that Tsunade can spam kicks, the same way She-Hulk can be clapping like she's in church and really make it kind of like a rotational kind of thing like Neji, where it's like you kind of have a protective barrier of just like strong enough force to blow away city blocks with just claps and ground smashes.
I think the ground smash is a good one. I think the ground smash is a good one. The clap, if I'm not mistaken, though a wide radius, is generally in front of, right?
Usually,
Usually it just affects in front. How wide that radius is cool, but nothing behind She Hulk is getting that fucked up by the clap, correct?
I believe
Okay.
so.
Okay. Tsunade lays down a clone with She Hulk's stupid ass, right? Lays down a clone, an illusion clone. Just one. Just one. I think just being able to do clone jutsus, not even shadow clones, right? Because we referenced that before we started filming. Shadow clones, regular clones, two different things. But just the ability to make clones against, because that's really the thing that I think we're underestimating here. I understand She Hulk's going to get angry, but she's going to get dumber. And Naruto, all the abilities in Naruto, on some level, have a little finesse in them. Have a little finesse by nature of the whole ninja shit. Tsunade is going to be so far and above smarter than She-Hulk. And just placing a clone in front of She-Hulk, I think she falls for that every time. If she's as enraged as we're saying, The clones look exactly like Tsunade. Was she not going to attack the thing that looks like the person that she's fighting? She's going to fall for that every single time. And Tsunade will step behind her and beat the shit out of her again and do another clone when she turns to do her clap thing. Step behind her again, beat the shit out of her again. Like, I don't think there would be a space in which She-Hulk, as angry as she would need to be to not get fucked up by Tsunade's kicks and Tsunade's ability that's damaging a Susanoo, by the way, which we discussed how ridiculous that is. I don't think she's ever going to be at a space where she's that angry and then able to recognize what is the real Tsunade and what is not, and not fall for the bait each time.
If I don't know if Tsunade would have to specifically do hand signs to do it, or if she would have to, like how they do in the fucking show where they fucking say it, clone jutsu or whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
If it did get to that point though, where She-Hulk was able to pick up on the pattern that, okay, when she does this hand symbol, it's going to be a shadow clone, and also, or whatever kind of clone, and then also realizing it, I think she falls for the clone one time.
Really?
Here's my thing about the clone. Ground smash, clone's gone instantly. Everything in the radius is gone instantly. If you could do 3 clones at once. Also, how much chakra does Tsunade have to just be spamming clones in that way, where she can just continuously do that? Whereas the longer that She-Hulk goes, she's going to get even bigger ground smashes.
Tsunade fought Madara for several days alongside Kage, but during that fight gave her chakra to the Kage, who then pulled off some Kage level jutsu. I don't think chakra level is a concern when it comes to the clone jutsu. I'm not saying she's like on some Naruto type shit where it's a seemingly endless thing, but the Mytonic regeneration and the 100 healings jutsu, if I'm not mistaken, like she literally has chakra stored in the forehead, like deep reserves of chakra, right? That's how that works, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think the chakra thing would be a concern. I think the ground smash thing is a good thing, but even then, like, I'm pretty sure that's another thing about Naruto is I'm pretty sure Tsunade gets She-Hulk in the air if she's doing the ground smash too much and juggles her shit and does not let her touch the ground again. We saw her whoop Orochimaru's ass midair just by having hold of his tongue and his shirt and, just being able to, every time she beat the shit out of him, to drag him back. I'm sure she can come up with something similar to She-Hulk where she's piecing her up in the air and not allowing her to hit the ground. The hand sign thing. I see what you're saying with that, but we also know people in Naruto weave hand signs at a different kind of speed. I don't think She-Hulk's going to be able to take note of that. Also, the thing that makes the clone so difficult is any pattern that you try to pick up on, you can then ask the clone to then mimic. You know what I'm saying? Like if She-Hulk is able to notice the hand signs, which I'm skeptical of, that she's going to make that connection that angry. That's the thing about She-Hulk, is that the intelligence goes out the window the angrier she gets, right?
But
So
it's very gradual though. It's not like
for
she gets a
sure,
little angry and it's just like she's an idiot now.
for sure. But that's the thing. I don't think Tsunade is going to start breaking out clones until she absolutely has to. And though it's gradual, I think She-Hulk's going to be getting her ass tagged for the first hour of that fight, and she's going to get angry pretty quickly. I think the classic thing that's made Hulk, at least Hulk, angry throughout the years has been his inability to hit something that he's swinging at. I mean, that's happened time and time again, is that when he's unable to hit something, he gets more and more angry. And we've established Tsunade's not going to be hit by She-Hulk, even if she had the same speed. That's weave action all day. That's nothing.
And I was going to say, literally any other ninja in Naruto, because I was going to put that counter argument of if She-Hulk grabbed Tsunade's hands and completely destroyed them, kind of how Hulk does Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
The problem is Tsunade can equally as heal from that pretty quickly. So if you put the hand, like the problem with the counter argument is if She-Hulk does put the hands on Tsunade, who can equally as heal just as fast, if not faster in some instances, like is She-Hulk able to incapacitate her? Can you knock out somebody in the 100 healings jutsu, like incapacitate them? Because does knocking somebody out equal healing? Because like we know Hulk has crazy healing. Dr. Doom knocked him out. It's like that didn't have anything to do with healing factor though.
That's what I'm saying. If you can flip the switch on someone, I think they're going out regardless. And I don't think consciousness has anything to do with like actual physical damage being done on you. So it's like, I think she could absolutely knock She-Hulk out. Also, another question. Tsunade has every nature release except for wind, right? I would assume she can do some jutsu with those. We've not seen it. We've not seen it, but she does have those releases. In which case, I'm going to assume she can use jutsu for those things. That unlocks a whole nother aspect of that fight that I don't think She-Hulk is like prepared for. Not that lightning or fire is going to burn or damage She-Hulk in that way, but I do think it's an added element. I also want to take into account Katsuyu. Tsunade has a summoning. Now, I think She-Hulk fucks Katsuyu up pretty quick. I think that would be a sad case. I think that would be a sad case. I think she would beat the shit out of Katsuyu. That'd be sad to watch. But Katsuyu does have that acid. That acid has burned through a lot of things in Naruto. If someone like She-Hulk gets hit with acid, acid is corrosive. It doesn't go away. That shit doesn't dry up. Is then She-Hulk placed in a state of constant regeneration with acid where it's just constantly burning through. And that brings about a different question for me, where if you're constantly regenerating, like actively, does that make you more susceptible to something? Like think of it on, I almost think of it like Gaara's sand, so to speak, when he turns into a Jinchuriki, where it's like the sand was knocked off of him that made him more susceptible to damages. Like Naruto had to soften him up, so to speak, before actually being able to like tag him in that way. Could you say the same for She-Hulk's regeneration, where she got hit with that acid and she was constantly having to regenerate? Would that make her more susceptible to attacks? Like if Tsunade then starts to piece that together, and Tsunade can get burned with acid all day, that's no problem for Tsunade. If Tsunade can then pair that with the fact that she's beating the shit out of She-Hulk, does that then make She-Hulk more susceptible to damage because she's actively healing already?
I would say no, because now she's more angry, which makes her healing factor better.
Okay.
So the healing factor is instantaneous anyways, isn't it? Like she's continuously healing anyways. And I get what you're saying about the acid being on her, but I feel like the more that she's having to work herself, the better that things get, or the stronger that she gets.
So you just think that she would get angry to the point in which the healing factor is far faster than whatever the acid can burn through?
Well, I think it would just have a compounding effect of like you thought that was a good idea to burn her with acid, but you actually made her stronger and you made her healing factor that much faster. Like imagine if we did go with the scenario where Tsunade cuts her with the chakra blade, and as she's cutting with the chakra blade, it heals right behind it. Like it's to the point where it's like you're not even going to get a chance to get her brain or her organs out, because as soon as you cut her open, like it's literally instantaneous.
Okay. So my argument with that, I don't know if this would happen. Well, if the acid hits her and let's say Katsuyu spits acid on the chest or the head of She-Hulk. Does it get to the point? I understand as she gets more angry, it'll heal quicker. But as even for a split second, which is all Tsunade needs, by the way, that's another thing. Tsunade needs very small windows of time. Like you're saying, if she cuts the head with the chakra blade and it heals back up, I think Tsunade, that healing factor better be happening very fast, because I think Tsunade is making 1,000 cuts in 10 seconds if she wants, with
That's
how
true.
fast she is.
That's true.
But let's say that the acid burns. Let's say the acid burns through She-Hulk's head and just for a split second exposes her actual bare skull, the bone. And Tsunade does that heavenly downward kick. She-Hulk's knocked out. It's just a question of whether or not it actually burns down to where it exposes that, which I don't know. That's the tricky part.
Tsunade is not like that.
Tsunade not like what?
I feel like this is a lot of stars aligning for her. Like she's never in a fight like putting 2 steps ahead like that, man. I think by the time she starts to figure some stuff out,
give me the Tsunade fights. Give me the Tsunade fights.
Orochimaru. What other fights does she have?
Kabuto, you could count that. I mean, it's the same thing.
Okay.
She fight Pain.
No.
Pain blew her away, and then I think she had to like use all her chakra to like protect, like heal everyone. She sent out like a bajillion Katsuyus or something like that.
Yeah.
So we can count Pain too. Strengthens the point, and then Madara, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying she doesn't think 2 steps ahead. very few people are able to think 2 steps ahead against Orochimaru, Kabuto, Pain, if you want to count that, Madara. Madara, literally, you can't. Like the most battle experienced dude of all time.
These are
Two
all
steps,
ninjas that she had info on, though. This is a
yeah,
completely different character. She has
yeah,
no
but
idea how any of it works. Like to
it's
plan.
pretty simple. It's pretty
I mean, it's
simple.
pretty simple, but it's almost like they're the same. They're built kind of the same way, except for getting like She-Hulk gets stronger. Like the durability and how like the longer the fight, the
Mm-hmm.
stronger that she gets, or the longer the fight. Like Tsunade can obviously fight for days, but we're like I feel like we're talking about, not saying that Tsunade is not an intellectual character. I feel like we're talking about like saying that she's as far ahead as like Shikamaru was with Hidan and Kakuzu, like planning steps, like seeing how the
I
fight
don't
unravels when we I'm not saying she's not capable of it, but it's like we're talking about like, acid and the skull and being ready for that and then popping off the kick. It's like, when has she
I
ever been like that though?
I think that it's unfair to say she's never been like that when she's only fought people who are insanely smart. 2 steps ahead. I think Naruto is 5 steps ahead on She-Hulk in terms of intelligence when She-Hulk's mad and enraged.
Hmm.
Tsunade, again, I understand what you're saying. She's never shown a lot of forethought within the fights that she's been in. I don't think she has to show. I don't think like not being able to like show forethought on Madara, who literally has a jutsu that can kind of see what you're going to do next,
Hmm.
is the same as like She-Hulk. I think it's unfair to compare the two. If I'm thinking of these things, me, Dallas Hall, I'm sure Tsunade could think of them. My opinion.
So
She's also she's also a medical ninja. She's also a medical ninja, the goat medical ninja, right? So I think if anybody would understand the importance of maybe using something to expose vital organs to make them more hittable, it would be Tsunade.
I'll say, from like looking at her durability feats, it's like she's got some pretty great ones, but she also has multiple instances. Like, I mean, and this will be kind of, weird, but like she takes a beating from Absorbing Man, Tatiana, Doc Ock, the entire Wrecking Crew all at once, and then they leave her KO'd though, right? So she's
Dub.
taking on like 10 people at once. And the Wrecking Crew is like a specifically like Hulk villains that all fight Hulk. Absorbing Man's a Hulk villain. Doc
Hmm.
Ock, smart as fuck, arguably smarter than Tsunade in ways. Tatiana, who gives a fuck about her? So it's like it took all those people to KO her. And the Wrecking Crew alone, like their whole powers is like similarly elemental, I guess. I'll say you put up a fucking great argument on why Tsunade would actually have multiple ways to finesse She-Hulk, to the point where I'm leaning a little more towards Tsunade, only because I do agree with Corey, where it's like there's a lot of stars aligning for Tsunade to get this on.
Hmm.
The hard part about it all is like, can Tsunade just, and this is just for the devil's advocate of like, let's just say none of that shit matters, and She-Hulk did get her hands on Tsunade. Can she just activate her healing instantaneous? Does she have to do hand signs? What is the activation? Because if She-Hulk does get her hands on Tsunade and knows for a fact she's going to have to put her ass down as fast as possible, I don't see a scenario where She-Hulk doesn't do every brutalizing thing to fuck her up.
I think if She-Hulk got her hands on Tsunade before she did the 100 healings thing, which I think the fight would be going in a position to where, see, that's the tough part. I think that's a very good point. I think that's a very good point. In a way, I don't think she's going to touch Tsunade. That's kind of my main thing. Is I don't think she ever would. But if she did, I don't think Tsunade will have been in the 100 healings because I don't think she'd have any reason to do so. Because Tsunade only goes into the 100 healings or the mytonic regeneration when shit's getting bad. Like, right, that's what she does when she's taking a lot of damage. And it's like, okay, better get the regeneration started. I do think if Tsunade slipped on a banana peel, whatever, and She-Hulk did grab her, I think Tsunade's raps. I think She-Hulk smashes her fucking head in. I think she just claps, rips her arms off, whatever. I don't think Tsunade whatever She-Hulk does to Tsunade prior to the 100 healings or the mitonic regeneration, I think would be way too great for Tsunade to overcome. That's the thing.
Okay.
With that being said, I just don't know if she grabs her. That's
Okay.
Tsunade's fast. That's tough. I think the speed, to me, the speed is what does it, and also the fact that She-Hulk, though more powerful, gets dumber. Where Naruto abilities involve so much finesse, Where even people in Naruto who may not fall for that because they're conditioned to expect it. But then again, dog, it's like I forgot about one ability, substitution jutsu. I don't even know how that shit really works, to be honest with you. 100% Naruto. I don't think any of us do.
That's a valid point. Like you get it. She works the whole fight to get her hands on her, which we were already saying. I do agree with the speed being a hack. It is hard to fight somebody that you can't touch. But it's like you do all that work, and it's a log. It's just a fucking log the whole time. Like, bro, what do you do?
I really don't know. I really don't know how
Imagine
the
her looking at the
substitution.
log in her hand, just like trying to understand, like really, like what the fuck just happened.
Bro, it'd be the fucking equations meme where just all that shit pops in. That Mr. Krabs meme, just looking around. It's like, but that's the thing with the substitution thing, though, is like I still don't even know how that shit works for real. Like, is someone so fast they fucking give you a log and then they dip? Is that how that works? Because the slowest characters in Naruto pull off.
They all do that shit.
Yeah. They pull off fucking substitution jutsus like it's nothing. So I still don't know how that works. Could she spam substitution? Nobody does it in Naruto, but also it's so that's the thing about Naruto though that just makes it so hard, I think, to compare Tsunade, because what she lacks in Naruto is only amongst other people who know how that works. They know what's going on. They know what to expect. You're not going to do a substitution on Madara because Madara sees the substitution coming. If you don't know what a substitution is, though, one would think Tsunade could spam that shit all day. I would think, but I don't know how that shit works for real. I don't know how substitutions work. Like, is that a chakra thing? Does that take chakra?
I see your point. I think the hacks. I'm starting to see what you're saying. I think the hacks might be more. What's the word I'm looking for? The hacks might overwhelm the strength. The hacks might overwhelm the strength.
They lean into Tsunade. If you looked at like a pros and cons list of like abilities of pure hacks, you got like 3 big ones for She-Hulk, where it's just like crazy strength, crazy durability, and crazy healing factor. So just in general, she's the best UFC fighter you ever seen, essentially. Yeah. Whereas Tsunade has like fucking expert skills, the master of her craft, has crazy healing abilities, and has so many hacks to avoid getting hit, which is like Naruto's, like the whole universe of Naruto. The whole thing is not to get fucked up. She-Hulk's whole thing is like, I can tank this damage and dish out equal damage, if not more, with whoever I'm fighting. Tsunade would probably never give her that chance. And because of that, if She-Hulk can't actively put her hands on Tsunade, and then even if she does put her hands on Tsunade, Tsunade has a hack of like it's a clone or it's a substitution jutsu. There's too many variables in Tsunade's favor that make it where she could potentially fuck it up. Because if she does a substitution jutsu, by the time that She-Hulk sees she has a log in her hands, she's getting the heavenly kick on the head that's got her doozy, and then you got a fucking chakra blade going through the heart. Like,
yeah, I think it's like I almost feel like the more I think about it, I think it's unfair to She-Hulk just because like their worlds are so different that it's like I also would not expect to have a log if I hit someone. Truth be told, me, which is not the smartest dude of all time, just me, current Dallas, if I punched someone, had a log in my face or a log in my hands, I'd be like, what in the fuck? If I was like She-Hulk enraged, like I wouldn't even be processing. Like I wouldn't even be able to actually understand what had just happened. And I think it's the Finam. The Finam is too great on Tsunade's end for She-Hulk to win. But I do agree, if She-Hulk does hit Tsunade and she doesn't substitute jutsu, whatever reason, dead. Fucking dead.
So I like this result where it's like we put both scenarios up where we understand there are scenarios where each one have their own advantage. So we've touched on why they would win in those scenarios. So who wins depends on the scenario. She-Hulk wins if she put the hands on Tsunade. Tsunade has too many hacks in the general purpose. I would say if you put it in a simulator, the ratio would probably lean a little more towards Tsunade. If you did like out of 10 fights, she's probably winning 6 to 7. And there would be very few substitutions of like, because She-Hulk's kind of a one-trick pony in a way where it's like it's really just the hands. If she can't put her
Yeah.
hands on you, there's not a lot else she can do. She's fast, but she's not Tsunade fast. She's strong, and she's stronger than Tsunade.
Mhm.
But if you can't touch him, what's the point? It's also just a completely different weight class. But with the hacks of Tsunade, I do think that she would probably come out on top. And I think are we all kind of unanimous on that? We think Tsunade would probably take it away more often than not. I know
It's
you
such a
are,
good
Dallas.
fight.
I was
Such
gonna
a good
say,
fight.
like, Corey, at
It's such
first
a
you were
good
like
fight.
She-Hulk only, dog.
It's hard. It's still hard though, because I just
to
feel
be
like I
to
see
be three.
I see it's valid, but I feel like I agree. I do think 7 out of 10 it probably is Tsunade because speed kills, hacks kill. But it's like, man, if this is a fight of like, I feel like endurance, even to say that Tsunade does have the healings, I feel like in the situations that She-Hulk does win, it's because the fight just lasts a crazy amount of time. And the
Yeah.
intelligence can be lacking. But whenever you've been fighting somebody for like 4 or 5, 6 days to a week, if it could potentially last that long, like Tsunade doesn't have infinite chakra. She does have a
No.
crazy huge amount. Eventually that chakra runs out. And we don't really know if gamma radiation would run out that way. I don't think it works that way. And
She-Hulk is
over time,
infinite, dog.
it's an infinite thing. Okay, so it's like, she's getting stronger and stronger by the day. While after about day 4 or 5, Tsunade's starting to not be able to kick it the way that she's been doing it. But I still think of it, the IQ and the hacks. I will agree that the 7 out of 10. You can't argue with 7 out of 10.
It's so interesting.
Probably wins it.
It's so interesting. One, I didn't think I was going to be able to argue this well. I legit thought She-Hulk was going to win when I started, but I'm holding it down for Naruto no matter what. I would have tried to argue Kiba could win. Not Kiba, fuck him. But any other character, I probably would have tried to argue. But like, I think what's interesting about the fight would be that both of their respective strengths also, if they last too long, become the weaknesses, so to speak. Where it's like Tsunade's chakra and the abilities surrounding that's like the finam. But if they don't work, you kind of just on a countdown to when are you going to get smashed at that point. Or at the I think best case scenario for Tsunade is she does like an infinite draw where she can just weave forever. That'd be like her best case scenario. Whereas where like She-Hulk is like, okay, your anger, the longer the fight goes, the stronger you get, but also the dumber you get, which makes you more susceptible to someone like Tsunade, who's amongst other Naruto people, smart, but amongst someone like She-Hulk, who is like not a regular person. I don't know if this makes sense. The rules of the regular world do not apply in Marvel world, of course, but it's not the same as Naruto. It's a completely different rule set that she'd have no reason to anticipate. I think just getting dumber as you get angrier opens you up to someone like Tsunade, who is so tricky to someone who does not exist in the Naruto world. What would you even make out of the log thing, dog? You wouldn't even know what the fuck's going on. You really wouldn't even have it in your head that she replaced herself with a log. You would just be like, is she a fucking log?
Was she a log the whole time?
Yeah, like
was I fighting a log the whole time?
That's what I'm saying. Like
after the Genjutsu.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the finam would be too great, but I do think if none of that shit works, then Tsunade's getting murdered pretty quickly.
I think it's leaning Tsunade.
She'd have to be on her shit that day though. Because the moment that you fuck up, you got to be on your shit that day. You got to bring that.
Or you got to at least go into 100 healings immediately,
instantly.
Like I would hope that if like she did the clap thing and Tsunade saw what She-Hulk was capable of, then Tsunade would be like, just in case, we'll get the healings going.
I mean, the battle, and we didn't really preface this at the beginning, but I think it's important. This is no prep time. If you give She-Hulk prep time and she knows Tsunade's ability, I think that turns to a completely different battle.
Ooh,
I think it turns into a completely different battle. Once she knows what she has to defend against and what she knows she can't let happen, she would actually keep her cool, and that would be the dangerous part.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing for me. I think She-Hulk, it's so funny because it's like you think it gets more advantageous for She-Hulk the longer it goes, which it does, but there's also a sweet spot in the beginning where She-Hulk can retain a certain amount of intelligence to take note of patterns. But I still think at the end of I think it's the speed. I think if you had them on same level speed, then I actually think She-Hulk smashes Tsunade like pretty easily, actually. But it's that speed difference. It's just not being able to be hit, which I don't think she'd be piecing Tsunade up by any means, even if Tsunade and her had the base speed, just because the gap. But like, just the speed, dog. I just think it's hard to fuck with.
So now that we've pretty much discovered that She-Hulk is only going to be able to fight people with a significant less amount of hacks, I would say the only other character I can think of that would be a really good matchup would be somebody like Wonder Woman. And
Yeah,
let's just go ahead and establish anyone that needs bracelets to block bullets is going to get dick slapped by She-Hulk. Are we in
dick slap.
agreement with this?
Dick slap.
Dick slap.
Dick slap approved.
Clit
Got your dick slap.
Clit
Clit
slap.
slap. Clit slap. So She-Hulk clit slapping the fuck out of Wonder Woman. If you have any idea on why that wouldn't work out and you want to say something about Superman, I don't want to fucking hear it. She-Hulk clit slaps the fuck out of her. Way more interesting battle with Tsunade versus She-Hulk. But we appreciate you guys checking in this first podcast of Why Who Wins. It's a very new concept we have going on here where we are open to discussion on these things. Where, like I said, we're not doing any mathematical equations or anything. It's very much our own interpretation and opinions, which I think is what makes it the most fun. And we also want you to share your opinions because we think that is also fun. And we would love to discuss this with you down in the comments on if you think there was a good argument. Who do you agree with? Do you think She-Hulk, Tsunade would win? If you got an argument for Wonder Woman, we'd hate to have to tear you up in the comments, but we'll do it if we got to.
Oh, I'm gonna get drugged. I already know. I'm gonna get drugged in the car.
If you guys have any recommendations, if there's characters you would like to see pit up against each other, please leave it in the comments down below. We'll give you some love in the next video for having a nice video idea, especially if it's a good matchup and ones that you haven't seen before that you think would still be good. Because in my eyes, we didn't think She-Hulk and Tsunade was something that has been done before. We were able to find a few websites online, but they didn't really go into much detail. I think more odd battles are more interesting than fighting people that are specifically of your skill set. So if you guys have any other recommendations or any characters you'd like to see us cover, we can cover just about any character that you recommend, deep cuts and all, doesn't matter. Homelander versus whoever the fuck you want, long as it's not someone else with Superman powers, we would be happy to do something crazy. And if you like this video, you like this podcast, go ahead and give it a like, checking out, subscribing, and following us because it's going to become a weekly show that comes out. So something to look forward to every week on the Dork Side. And if you made it this far, we just want to say appreciate you checking this out and listening to us talk about dumb shit because this was really fun to do. A little bit different than movie reviews and video essays. And it's just us getting to have a little bit of fun with you. So make sure you check us out next week. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Thor 4 sucks.